Welcome to mystical teachings, to Tanya Today, which is mystical teachings from the I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We give greetings every morning, give a chance for everybody to get on, and also to be noticed and to be a part of. Davida and Liba, twin sisters in New York. Good morning. Usher in Tennessee. Boker Tov. Darren is with us. Good evening in the Philippines. John, North Carolina. Shalom. Clem and June, both in Australia. Wow, one after the other. Look at that. Different parts of Australia, but in Australia. Eugenia, all the way back further west in Calgary. How's the weather there? Is it still, do you have snow on the ground? It's cold. We have in Bakersfield, California, Paula and Greg learning together. Beautiful. Robert, shalom to you in Boston. Erica is with us in Norway. Hoeks is in the Philippines. Good evening. Rusty is in Texas, and Katie also in Texas. Anna, shalom, in New York, if I recall. Tarek is in Egypt with us. Welcome. Julia is in Florida. Good morning. In Toronto, we have Corrine with us. Michael, good afternoon to you in Germany. Thank you, Corrine. And who else? We have Sally, East Texas. All right. Wouldn't know the difference, but great. David. In Toronto. All right. Another Torontonian. Adini, welcome. David in California is with us. Leah in Florida. Is there problems with the Irene? Welcome. And okay. We have here in Clubhouse Vilma, Batya, and Andrea, Eliana, Celeste, Sina, Margot, Deborah, Boss, Yitzchak, and Instagram we have, Carolina, welcome, Montrealer, good morning. Eliyahu, we have Sarah, we have, can't make out some of the names, Pat, Yenta de la Venta, Akoy in Peru. Beautiful. We are going to do today the fifth essay in Kuntres Achron, continuing on a previous thought. The video is in and out. Ooh, that's not good. I wonder if this is a problem with, okay, I have to look into this with Chabad.org to see what the issue is and why we're experiencing it, or is it something on my side?
I've seen it with live videos. Interruptions happen.
Right, but it seems like the last few days it seems to be several times that it's happening. So I'm wondering what the issue is. But yeah, okay. Thank you. All right. So we are speaking about that through a mitzvah, a physical act in this world, everything is animated from God in klipas noiga, a mixture of good and evil, and therefore by doing a physical act of mitzvah, we bring a refinement in the physical world through taking the good that's mixed in with the negative, with the evil, and we extract it and refine it. That's a physical act of a mitzvah. The study of Torah, and that's the specific point that we're touching upon. The study of Torah does the same thing, based on this idea of the physical act, right? It also extracts. So, for example, like a mitzvah that we can't fulfill today, like bringing an offering. Oh, okay, so David is saying that if you put it on pause and then start it again, then it should work. Okay, for those who are on Facebook. So, so that's good. Also, like for the mitzvahs that we can't fulfill today, bringing an offering. Well, you study about it, as we're doing actually in Maimonides right now. We're studying those things. Who can offer? What can, all these things. And it's as if you did that mitzvah. And we'll get it to the end of the class. One of the important things about that. So it's as if you did it. But what if it's a mitzvah that is very uncommon, or the detail of a mitzvah, right, that is never occurred at all, perhaps never even actually existed, but yet it's a law in the Torah and you study it, so, can you say that like it's as if you did what? Right? And especially when we're talking about the times of Mashiach, right? For example, the law of Pigul is that you would bring an offering and you would have in mind to eat whatever part of the offering you would eat, not in the appropriate time, beyond the time limit. Well, in times of Mashiach, something like that's not going to happen. So, what's the point? What is the meaning of the study of it that we extract and refine and elevate the sparks that come from the world of Tohu? How does this study do that when either it never existed, this particular law, or it never occurred, rather, or eventually, these laws in times of Mashiach, we're not going to be forgetful, so they won't exist. So what we need to know is that there's a spiritual root of everything in the physical world. So anything that's prohibited in this world that you're not allowed to do, right? Well, it has a place in the spiritual world. Where is that? In Klippa, in the life of Klippa. That's where it comes from. That's why it becomes prohibited. It evolves down into this physical world as an action that you should not do. Otherwise, it couldn't exist in this world if there wasn't, coming from above, that vital force, that energy, that life force, in this instance, of Klippa, from above. So even a simple little thing that if, you go and crinkle your hair, right? You play with your hair. Well, to do that kind of action, you're getting a vitality to be able to do that. You're receiving a life force for the moment from Klippa, right? You're not doing a mitzvah, you're just, right? Therefore, even the particular prohibitions, they never became a practical issue on the physical plane on this world, but it still exists as a life force in the spiritual chambers of Klippa. It does exist there. Again, even the particular instances where it possibly never did and never will actually occur. As an example, unwittingly misdeeds like erroneously calling the ninth sheep a tenth. That's about something actually we just recently learned in Maimonides, Rambam, of the giving every 10th sheep to the Kohen, to the priests, as one of the gifts that they receive. Well, the kind of it's something that eventually that cannot be deliberate and thereby cause klipa to light upon it. So possibly these circumstances, it doesn't even exist in the chambers of Klippa above. So how then does it possess a source in the root of Klippa? If it's something that can't happen. Well, it can't happen down here. Doesn't mean, that there's no source for it above. So the Alter Rebbe says, no, in any event, it does exist. Even if it's not in the realm of Klippa, right, of the negative force above, to make a distinction between holy and profane, well, in the supreme wisdom, right? So in other words, perhaps it doesn't even exist there in the realm of Klippa because it never evolved down here into a possibility or an eventuality of being expressed in the physical world over here. But at least we need to know that it does exist in God's supreme wisdom. And that supreme wisdom, was given to Moses at Mount Sinai with all its details. Even things that were only revealed later on. Even things that were only revealed later on, right, by later sages, was still given to Moses at Mount Sinai. Like the Talmud speaks about Rabbi Yirmiyah, who possessed so many hypothetical possibilities and questions that they actually escorted him out of the house of study of the Beis Midrash because he was, delaying or holding back the moving forward of the teachings because he had so many hypothetical questions. So those hypothetical questions, like that, what if, talking about a firstborn, a firstborn animal, right? So it says opened to the womb. Well, what if it was twins and the firstborn, they were twins, and the male was enwrapped by a female coming out. So is that called firstborn, not first, whatever. In other words, that these are queries of things, so much so that, again, removed from the Beis Midrash, he was later brought back. And these queries were later on actually dealt with in the later sages, not in the Talmud. All those things were given to Moses at Sinai. What does that mean? It means it's supreme wisdom that's vested in the laws of Torah are infinite. Well, supreme wisdom is infinite because it has the infinite of God in it, the Ein Sof, that closed in it. Therefore, every particular law is a gateway for and a channel for God's supreme infinite wisdom. And that supreme infinite wisdom, Chokhmah as we call it, is the concept we've learned previously that the father founded the daughter, which means in spiritual terms, Chokhmah is the expresses itself in Malchus. Father is Chokhmah, wisdom. Daughter is Malchus, royalty. Meaning that the divine wisdom of God expresses itself in the word and the oral Torah, which is daughter, meaning Malchus, royalty, as we've explained. Of course, royalty, the king rules with his word, right? And that, from Malchus, the Chokhmah is then drawn and invested in Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. And now that we understand this, that everything has rooted in holiness, right? Forget about the klipa, right? But in the holiness of the divine, now we need to appreciate, now that we understand that concept. So it all comes from there, right? So we know that klipa, negative forces, where does it get its nurturing from? One can only get it from godliness, right? Well, part of godliness, well, it's going to get it from the holiness of the 10 divine attributes, spheres, but from the hinder part, or more precisely from the garments of the 10 spheres of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, or more particularly the garments of Yitzir and Asiya, because there the klipa is stronger than it is in the world of Bria. So the evil of the klipas of the worlds of Yitzirah, spiritual worlds, and the spiritual world of Asiya, and this physical world, are intermingled there with the good. And that nurturing comes from what we call the state of garments, right? So there is a, where klipa gets its source, again, just to remind you this idea that we've learned many times, we don't believe that there is the godhood and Satan, that they're, two power sources, and good versus evil, right? As we see a duality in the world, and most people, that's the way the mind understands things, of that duality, but that's idolatry. That's not Jewish. Judaism, there's only one God, meaning one source of life. So even the negative force of klipa, it's getting nurtured from the hinder part of the 10 divine attributes, or the garments, shall we say, of the 10 spheres, specifically in Yitzir and Asiya, as the good there is the lesser, and therefore the negative force can derive its nurture from there. So it's getting its nurture. How do we deal with that? Well, when we study Torah, the laws of Torah, right? Here we're talking about, in other words, the laws of Torah, or the understanding of the mitzvah. And we do it in speech and thought, right? Which speech and thought, we have a vitality at that moment. That vitality is now coming because it's Torah, coming from holiness, is therefore giving us the power to separate and make a distinction, the negative force from the klipa, from sacred, right? That gives us the power. We can do that. And this is what fits with what our sages say in the Talmud about why the first holy temple was destroyed, and the land, and we went into exile, is because we did not recite the blessings over the Torah. Meaning, the inner meaning of this is that we failed to draw down the infinite light through our study, which the word baruch means to draw down, right? To draw down, to drawing down, meaning to draw down holiness into a place of klipa, that klipa can get nurture because we separate the good from the negative force through our study. That's proper study. When you know that you're drawing down godliness into this world, rather than it's just a intellectual exercise, or just a good self-help read or study, or whatever the case may be. No, it's godliness. Not only it's godliness, but you're drawing down godliness through our speech and thoughts of understanding the Torah. We're drawing and refining the world through this. We're drawing the infinite of the supreme wisdom of God that's clothed in the Torah study, in the law or the understanding of the mitzvah that we're engaged in. And Chachma, divine wisdom, is the power of refinement that allows the infinite of God to extract from the negative source of Klippa, to take the spark of goodness, holiness, divinity, and refine it. Now, this is equally true of any study of Torah, whether it's a study of Torah laws that have prohibitory commandments, the negative commandments, and even of something that will never occur, because the study itself is causing the purification, it's causing the refinement. And this is accomplished, this refinement, as we draw the supreme wisdom from what we call the likeness of man above, who also is occupied in the Torah study. So when we study Torah below, our source above, the likeness of us above, also engages in Torah study, which is sourced in the spiritual worlds above, where it's in Asiya. Now, so what's the consequence of this? The Alter Rebbe brings out to a conclusion. With this, then, we can understand the requirement that every Jew has to learn, and first of all, has to fulfill all 613 commandments through thought, speech, and deed. Through deed is doing the commandment, giving charity, right? Putting on tefillin, Shabbos, holidays, and so on and so forth. And you have to do it with all of its details. How do you do that in thought and speech? Well, action we understand. Thought would be the study of the Torah, that you understand. In your thoughts, you have the understanding of that mitzvah, of all 613. And if one doesn't have it in thought, speech, and action, which refers to nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the three parts of the soul that are integrated from within us, then you need to be reincarnated and come back in order that you can fulfill all 613 commandments, but not only the fulfillment of the commandments, but the Torah study of them, that you need actually, as nefesh, ruach, and neshama, it means a simple meaning, the alluded meaning, the homiletics, and the secrets of the Torah. In other words, you need to understand the commandment of that mitzvah, for example, of all 613, but from one mitzvah, let's say, for example, you need to understand on all levels. Why? Because of all levels of the soul that we have needs to be fulfilled with that knowledge, that awareness, that the thoughts of that teaching. Because if not, then the soul is not complete. And if the soul is not complete, right, because there wasn't completely refined, because there are some sparks that need to still be refined, therefore we need to come back in order to fulfill that refinement of our soul. Now, so that's what we do today, is bringing that refinement through every, again, here we're speaking specifically about the Torah study, right? In the time to come, though, when Mashiach will come, when all evil will be eradicated from the world, all the good will be separated from the evil, and that's how that happens, then Torah study won't be to have refinement. Because, hey, the world's refined. The world's refined. So what are you going to do with Torah study? After all, you still will be even more engaged. But then it'll be all in levels of goodness. Good, greater good, and yet even greater good. It's like my name is Fine, fine, but there's finer, and then there's the finest, right? So we'll be going from level to level in this manner, and in the times of Mashiach. Woo! That was a long essay. Lots of stuff here. Lots of stuff. So just the basic idea over here is that the Torah that we study, which is to give us an understanding of the will of God on this level that we're discussing it, right? On this dimension, to have an understanding of the will of God. So we need God's wisdom, that in it is vested the infinite of God, and therefore there's infinite, so to speak, understanding of the will of God through the teachings of Torah that incorporates even things that never occurred. But it doesn't matter that it never occurred in this physical world. Like, I think, the law of the Ben Sora More, of the 12-and-a-half-year-old boy that is like really a bad kid, and steals from his parents and drinks wine and eats meat a third cooked. The detail of it is so it probably never occurred. Well, I think the Talmud says it never had adjudicated such a case of such an. But there's few verses in the Torah that speak about it. So what's the point? Well, the point is because it's a divine wisdom. And because it's a divine wisdom vested in it is the infinite of God, so then therefore there's an infinite manner of that will of God to be expressed in minute details of law. If the law is only about to do and not to do, then no. The law is about a particular mitzvah that brings a refinement by me understanding it. If I engage in the mitzvah, so there's a refinement, an engagement of the mitzvah when in the world of in my actions, right? By doing or not doing, right? With refraining or engaging in the positive mitzvah or a negative mitzvah by disengagement, right? So there's action involved. But where's speech might be in a positive commandment. There's speech involved right? In prayer, you have to say the words. Make a blessing over the mitzvah of lighting a Hanukkah menorah. That positive. That's an action and speech. But in many things, where's the thought involved? And that is again the three levels of our soul. Nefesh is action, ruach is speech, and neshama is thought, which kind of correlate with biological part of the person, which is the action, the physicality of the person. The spirit of the person, ruach, which is speech, which speech is expression of ultimately emotions, right? Emotions, and that's communicating. And what we communicate is, our character quality through our words, and then thought, which is the mind. The three levels of the soul that are incorporated from within, right? So that part of our soul, right? So those three dimensions of the soul, that we have 613 parts of our soul also that reflects on the body, 613, 248 organs and 365 sinews, equal to 613 components of our soul that need to be fulfilled, need to be refined. So the action brings a refinement. Now, when you can't do the act and you study it, so then it's as if you did the act and you have it in speech and you have it in understanding of the thought. So That's why in Rambam we're learning all of the mitzvahs. We through that study and understanding, we bring a refinement to us, and which hence doesn't allow the negative forces of this world to be nurtured. And as we concluded, this is essential. Why? Because ultimately, that's what we do now, is bringing that refinement to the world and to ourselves. And if we don't do it to ourselves, then our soul needs to come back. That's called reincarnation. Powerful. Let's get some discussion going on over here. Some thoughts, questions. A reminder, 2 question marks before you ask a question on Facebook or Instagram, so I could clearly see it's a question, because I don't always see that. And a reminder that today at 1 o'clock we're going to learn Rambam. And Rambam gives us the opportunity to learn about all of the commandments, to understand it, try to understand it. It's a lot of details. And through that gives us the opportunity that to bring refinement to ourselves and to the world. Okay, John, and a reminder, well, we're doing the anti-Semitism course at JLI tonight, for those who are part of it. When a Noahide or non-Jew studies Torah, does it create angels as well? I would imagine so, but I'm not certain. I'd have to find a source for it, but my understanding would be, and we'd have to look up in the Arizal's teachings. That was from yesterday that we discussed. I would imagine there's some kind of yes. So Anna's asking, what do you mean by refinement? Tikkun olam. Well, this is the real Tikkun olam. Tikkun olam is not about marching for a cause. That's many people think, there's causes out there that we need to stand for, and Tikkun olam means that, we stand shoulder to shoulder with those oppressed, and that's what many people think Tikkun olam is, but that's not what it means. That's how it's kind of, some people use it that way, but Tikkun olam means to fix the world. Fix the world means to refine it. What is it? What was it need fixing? Presence of God is hidden, is concealed in klipa. So when we use a physical object to use it for a mitzvah, so we're using the good that's there and elevating it. Now in our discussion, we're talking about Torah study that gives us an understanding of the divine will, that gives understanding of the mitzvah on the many dimensions that we spoke about, that brings a refinement to me, doesn't allow the negative forces of klipa to be nurtured as a result, and I elevate the good that's intermingled with the negative, which is, hey, our reality that we are constantly engaging in trying to change. Thank you, Anna, for that.
I have a question, Rabbi.
Sure, just give me 1 second before I lose. I'm afraid of losing the feed here. So Rachel, we can make angels sing as we become better. Okay. Do we make? I don't know what that means. I mean, yeah, angels sing when we sing. Actually, yes. Could you point out 5 attributes of severity in the 5 kindnesses? Okay, yes, I didn't. Okay, we'll go into that maybe in a moment. David does his klipa. I'm Marjan, I'm sorry. Sorry, no, 1 second. David, I don't understand the question. Marjan, what happens to those who are unable to do a mitzvah, physically unable? So therefore, that's why the study. If you're not able to physically to do a mitzvah, the study of that mitzvah is as if you did the mitzvah. If you can't do it, right? And it could be that you're not obliged. If someone has that deficiency, then they're not obliged. Okay, go ahead, Vilma.
So as I'm trying to understand it, what you're saying is that the Torah learning gives us all the laws, the 613 commandments or mitzvot, and these correspond with dimensions of the Jewish soul. I wasn't too clear about those 613 components of the soul, but
Right.
my question is, you're saying that all those components of the soul need to be engaged, and
Yes.
and that is why people are reincarnated or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, so you're saying that the klipa that exists inside people as well as in the world, right? Those negative forces.
Right.
So because everybody has a mixture of good and evil inside them,
right.
and it exists in the world, both things must be refined.
Well,
both the person and
exactly. So how do we do it in the physical world? We do it through the mitzvah. How do we do it in and that's our actions that we engage with in doing an action oriented mitzvah, right? How do we do it in the realm of our minds and hearts is through speech and thought. In other words, understanding of that Torah teaching, that law that gives us an understanding. So that brings a refinement in us, and which will also be reflected refinement in the spirit of the world.
So it makes sense that if our character is refined by learning, and being infused completely by the laws and understanding them, it does change a person.
Absolutely.
It does help them heal.
Absolutely.
And elevate those parts of them that are neglected, because there are 613 of them.
Right, exactly. Correct. Exactly.
So we work to improve those things.
Right, to bring the refinement in them. Exactly. Yep.
Thank you. That was very clear.
Well said. Well said. Okay, anybody else to share? I'm looking on. I don't see any questions on Instagram. Anybody else here on Clubhouse? I don't. Oh, 1 second. Davida, does Klipa? Okay, I'm not clear on that. How does Klipa affect the non-Jews? Well, again, what is Klipa means that it's covering over on the goodness, on the divine, on the godly spark. It's concealed, it's refined, and as a result, that's why we grapple in confusion and darkness and in a difficulty. Righteous, holy people, they see the light, meaning they see. We look at something and we see the physical of it, we see the external of it. So we're kind of taken by it. A nice plate of food that looks, scrumptious. We see the physical reality of it. A beautiful, a model, right? So we're taken by that. Because what are we experiencing? A concealment. We're just seeing the outer externality of the person, of the thing, of this world. We're not perceiving the spark of God. We're not perceiving the inner goodness. And that's that is the nature of the human condition. God created that way. And the whole point is for us to dig deeper and to discover. So, and so of course that's going to affect, non-Jews. It affects someone who's Jewish. And what the mitzvah allows us to do is to extract the good that's there and elevate it. When the Torah study, what it allows us to do is to do that in our speech and our thoughts. That allows us through that to bring a refinement to ourselves to such a degree that we engage in that in such a manner that, hey, our soul is complete and doesn't need to come back. If we didn't do that, then it needs to come back.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Is this what it means to be truly alive with the sparks all being elevated?
Yeah. This is what it truly means to be alive. Absolutely. And so a righteous person is truly alive because, you see, we're learning the idea, and for us, for me at least, it's the truth. It's in the world of thought. It's in the world of and the eye of my mind. But I still perceive the physical world, and at the same time, I need to know what I'm perceiving. Don't take that as the ultimate truth. Something more there. And a righteous person, that's what they perceive to begin with. They're not perceiving the external. They're seeing the core of the person. They're seeing the core of a situation. They're seeing how everything is not a means to an end, but literally as an end in itself. As an end in itself, because it's divine. So therefore it's going to be seen as an end in itself. That doesn't mean it doesn't also serve a purpose, right? But they're able to tune into that. That's So we're not, we're learning this and hopefully being more mindful of this. But the righteous person is living it truly in every fiber. So you're right when you're saying that's why the righteous are the real ones who are alive. The rest of us, we're whatever. I think you understand.
Yes.
Okay. Davida, good question. All right. Well, to be continued. All right. Folks, I got to tell you, you're amazing. In less than 1 week, we will be starting once again. Next Tuesday is Yutes Kislev. It will be, it's the day that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison, our teacher. And there will be a Fabrengen. I'll be having it on Instagram. It'll be on Instagram with some other people. I'm not sure. I don't know if the time is 8 o'clock or 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Keep you posted on it. I definitely want to come and join. And we will be restarting again with new fervor and with a new interesting focus to be revealed. All right. But in the meantime, we have less than a week that we finish once again 5 books of Tanya throughout the year, which is amazing, a great accomplishment. And I got to tell you, Some of you have been throughout this year, and actually there's some of you have been already a few years learning together. And I've been doing this for many years, and it doesn't get stale. Actually, if you really, are engaged in this, it just gets better and better. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zecher Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. Be well.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless you.